So you won't be able to tell.
Thank you. Okay, so let us jump into the meeting. So thank you, everyone. Looking at our first topic, the consideration of job descriptions, contract staffing needs related to, beginning with human resources.
So in your packet, there is a job description for a director for our English language services programming for grades K to 12. And then there's also a request to post 2 district support specialist positions for the English language department. What we have seen over the last year is a marked increase in our English learners, or our students identified as English learners. We are over 4,000 students at this point, and we have committed quite a lot of funding to providing English learner instructors in our schools. And for the school committee members that have been on the committee for quite a while, you may recall that we reduced our English learner department by several staff between 2013 and 2016 because of budgetary issues. And so really what we're trying to do is restore the positions within that department so that we are able to service our English learners. We also have some information that we are expecting more English learners this year, throughout the year, based on some information we have around refugee populations being located within our district.
So we're looking at posting a new director of ELL.
Yes, yes. The director position is a new position, and the 2 district support specialist positions exist already in our LSAA contract. But we have not, we cut them years ago, and we never restored them when we saw an increase in funding.
And can I ask, I know we've had Larche, where does that fit in this?
So Pla is a curriculum coordinator for English language learners. She does a fabulous job. That position would remain intact. But at this point, the department has seen significant increases, and we just, are sort of providing basic supports to our schools. We really need to coordinate supports to our teachers in our schools to provide more access to differentiated instruction, more coaching, et cetera. And we, again, just don't have the FTEs in the office to do that right now.
Any questions? Mr. Lay.
Thank you. My question would be, we don't have any candidate available for that position yet. Is that right?
So these positions we haven't posted. We need to get your approval here, and then it would go back to the full committee for a vote. Then we would be able to post the positions.
Okay. And my second question would be to justify the salary. It's 130. So that is straight 130. It's not like a range or anything. That's
No.
justify that amount.
That position, it's a director level position, and that has been what we have been posting. Our director positions, that's sort of the range in which we've been posting. So I think we've posted between 120 and 130 for most of our director positions that are unaffiliated.
Any other?
And sorry.
Nope, go
so
right
that
ahead.
person would be working under you, under the curriculum, right? And so that is a central office.
Yes, so the English learner department is in the Office of Teaching and Learning.
Okay. Thank you.
There are no other questions? Maybe we go position by position? Does that make sense?
Yes,
For the note
please.
taker? Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the posting of the Director of English Language Services position, as well as the 2 English Language District Support Specialist positions. Motion by Mr. Lay, seconded by Ms. Del Rossi. All those in favor say aye.
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 And we can recommend that to the full committee at our next meeting. Great. Next position.
The next position is number 2 in the letter. So the committee this winter, or I'm sorry, last spring, I believe, approved moving the stipend for teaching for the Lowell Teacher Academy. However, the auditor requested that we get permission to amend each individual principal's contract, which sets a specific amount within their contracts, and the language states, changes need to be approved by the committee.
Or?
Not for license.
License in chamber.
Don't be sorry. I don't really, we haven't had an audience in a while. I'm sorry, so,
Each one of these, the principals within their individual 25 contracts have a set amount if they're teachers in the Lowell Teacher Academy in regards to how much they make for teaching classes. So the committee voted to change the compensation, but since they have individual employment contracts, the auditor's office has stated that we, pursuant to the contracts, have to get an amendment to the instruction amount voted on by the school committee. So this is brought back to get that authority to amend those contracts.
how many principals, I'm sorry, how many principals do we have who take part as instructors in this program?
4, I believe. Right now, the ones in question for the fall are Dr. McLaughlin, Dr. Stahl, and Dr. Scarpati.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve moving forward with increasing the stipend from $3,900 to $4,900 by Ms. Del Rossi, seconded by Mr. Lay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for voting. And we'll make that recommendation to the full committee. Thank you. Third is the HR Generalist.
This is brought forth as noted in the letter, but generally we're going to have a gap due to personnel moves potentially in 2 positions. We're proposing that this position be fielded for the rest of the school year to address those potential gaps in service or to prepare for personnel changes. Additionally, as I write, the needs for HR actions have increased dramatically with ESSER money and with other, I could say, consequences of the pandemic, which have caused a lot of people to change positions or have increased substitutes in processing or tutors. So this would add to services and free up people who may be supporting hiring and or investigations. So presently we have 1 HR generalist, and I've included the present job description. That range is $10,000 less than what I propose. I request that the range go from $75,000 to $85,000 for our HR generalist for the one that we will hire and the present person in the position.
This is where I do have questions.
Then now is the time.
Okay. Okay. So the current person who is currently in the position, how much is that person making currently?
She's in the range of $65,000 to $75,000. I don't have the exact amount, but when she was hired into the position 3 years ago, it would have been at the lower half of that range.
Okay, so regardless, her range would jump 10,000
Yes.
right now. Okay, so then we'll hire another person essentially for that position at the same range, right? That will essentially shadow her,
Correct.
right, until her time of departure.
Yes. It's needed anyway, I would represent.
Right, which I honestly think would pave the way for a smooth transition, essentially, which would be needed, I think, okay? So we're increasing a salary to $10,000. Okay. And then we're hiring a brand-new salary, which is right, okay? We're going to need to do that anyway. And then, from what I understand, it's going to be a multifaceted kind of position, too, depending on what happens.
Correct. So the person's notified, we have a notification of retirement. I can't guarantee what'll come of that, obviously, but
Which I think is proactive and smart at the same time. But it also comes with, I just believe that it could open up a lot of questions just in regards to, exactly what ifs, right? In regards to what ifs. So now, the current person in this role is definitely leaving as of January 1st.
we received the notification. That's all I can really say about that.
Okay, so now, so if she does not leave, then her salary just is bumped up, and that stays as is,
I would
right?
say that's beneficial if the person decides to stay. It would be a benefit to the district.
Okay,
And then, but the committee would be able to readdress the two positions going forward in that budget cycle, because you'll be this spring addressing the budget for next year.
right, okay. Thank you. And then we essentially have two people in that position with the same salary.
Correct. Or range.
Same salary range, right. And then we have this one potential person retiring.
Yes, you do have another, as I mentioned, there's another potential need for this person to also support as well that I've mentioned in the letter.
Okay. So it's like protecting,
I would say enhanced
Covering.
preparedness is the purpose. I mean, all these positions are one deep, which is the problem, and if any one of them, has alternative plans for a particular time, it does create great stress, because there's, as you can imagine, a lot of investigations going on, a lot of hiring, a lot of people passing through for substitutes, tutoring, and the like, and there's dozens of personnel actions that occur each day as well.
okay.
Mr.
don't-
Nope, so you can wrap up.
I thought you handle all of those.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm involved in them, but, this position that I'm talking about receives about 150
Is the
emails a
recipient.
day, which,
Okay.
I receive the same amount, too. I've got to delegate some of those, because I can't possibly handle that many. But there is a large volume that comes in for a 2,000 employee organization.
So there are two people that receive those.
The majority of them, but the others are also receiving emails in their areas as well, so they're not really readily available for taskings.
Okay.
Because you're basically talking about a two-person office at this point. Not counting you in it, but in the HR.
We do have two administrative assistants who are excellent, and they do some functions that I would say are close to administrative, but we have myself and Miss Yan and Miss Jarvis who are handling, the administrative aspects of HR, and I'm probably...
And then two clerks, too.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Mr. Lay?
Thank you. My question is, if we have two more people coming in working under HR, and this person that is retiring is making X amount of salary, I think it would make more sense to that the next person that come in, the new person that come in, should be paid at max the same amount as the person that's leaving and not more. That's how I would perceive. If we have two extra bodies and then we bump up the salary for that particular person, I just feel like it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, so there would be one extra position, it would just make two of the same position within the office. So just one additional person for 2/3 of the year. And I only put a range because we don't know what the prospective applicant's training or education may be. It could, they could have, for example, a doctorate degree, the successful candidate. It's not likely, but that's why there's a range. I would agree with you, the person shouldn't make more than the person who's been in the position. I wouldn't want to voluntarily do that, but I can't rule it out given how tough the market is.
Okay, I incline to at least keep the max where she is paid now instead of $10,000 more. That's how I feel.
Ms. Doherty.
I guess I don't really have a clear understanding of what we have for bodies in the HR department right now. I know at one point when we had Ms. Durkin as our interim superintendent, I think we didn't have anybody over there. And so maybe we could, for our meeting Wednesday, just include a little org chart of how many players are running HR. And I would say I agree with Mr. Lay that somebody who's been in the role for 3 years, to have somebody else come in at this much $10,000 higher range, it seems doesn't make sense. It's out of order. And my final comment on this position is I really want that HR audit from the motion before we start moving pieces. I mean, do we have somebody in the title of Director of HR? We don't.
No.
So before we start creating another position, and I'm not saying we don't need it, but we've always had substitutes, we've always had tutors, and we've had lean years where, there was very little funding for much of anything. And I'm just loath to bring in a bunch of administrative positions that we're not going to be able to fund, to be cutting them down the road. So I'd like to take a little thought in terms of what are we doing with the HR office overall and what makes most sense. And I would love that third-party audit piece to help us, to inform us how we go forward and build an HR office that really is able to provide the kind of support in bringing staff in and retaining staff and supporting our staff. All those pieces are very important, especially in the employment climate that we're in. We want to keep our good people happy. We want to have fair workloads. But this feels a little piecemeal to me. And as I said, I do have concerns with somebody with 3 years' experience having a new person come in that they'll be training. And I do think there's value in institutional knowledge and providing that overlap. But I just wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't have enough information here at this point. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that in the beginning I had asked for permission to raise both positions because I wouldn't want to bring someone in who is making more than the incumbent. So that's what's requested in totality.
Well, I think, so there are a couple different things, and I'd offer these as ways we might be able to get through this. First of all, on the question of salary, I mean, I think the most direct thing we need to do, because I agree with the concerns that have been expressed, particularly with somebody in the position as it is, recognizing that, we don't know who's going to apply and we don't know what the candidates are going to look like. It makes sense to me that we would keep the range the same. You can have a range from 65 to 85 that would allow you the flexibility that if someone's coming in without a great deal, without the PhD, which I think you're right, we won't get. But that if we put that as the range, then we're in the same range as the current position, because I would agree. I think it's backwards to, kind of raise an existing salary just to meet a new salary. So I think if we put that as the range, then you have the flexibility you need, and we can, be able to keep the current employee in a fair place, which I think makes sense. So, I mean, that would be my first recommendation. I don't know if my fellow committee members have any concerns around that. Because you'd basically keep it at where the current staff person is. Okay. Okay. Thank you. My second recommendation would be, and I think to your point, Ms. Doherty, I understand, and I don't like having to kind of make piecemeal decisions before we get a full picture, but understanding the role of this one position that's going to be leaving in January, I do think having an overlap is going to be critically important to us being able to move forward. This isn't it's not the position that's going to be rebuilding the HR office. This position is going to be maintaining the current services so that they can have an opportunity to train with someone who's done the job. And, I mean, the person has not been doing the job for 3 years, let's be real. They've been doing it for like 12, maybe longer. So, I mean, there really is a great deal of institutional knowledge that we want to make sure is passed along. So, I mean, my thought is filling this position before we get the HR audit is really necessary, because I just don't think we can kind of take that chance at this point, particularly if we're looking at a January retirement, which I can only assume that if that's been what's submitted is what's going to actually happen. Yes, Ms. Doherty.
I wasn't sure. Is it definite that the employee is retiring? I thought there was some.
We have a new notice that'll be just after January 1st.
So that is definite.
Yeah, because that's how
so
grown-ups
given
work.
that-
They give
my
you their notice
understanding
and then they retire. I mean, that's how it works.
Right. Okay. I wasn't sure about that piece.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So those would be my two recommendations. So if we could, I guess we entertain a motion to post this position with the revised salary range. And I think that's the only real change to it, right? Yes, that's expanding it so that it's from 65 to 85.
Right. Is there a second?
There you go. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Great. And we'll make that recommendation to the full committee. All right, now our next one is the 2 additional Lowell High School security guards.
Yes, so there was a request by the high school for additional security support, and I've repeated the rationale within the memo that they've put forth, that there are, enhanced after-school activities on more territory to cover with the new field house, and additionally, a security guard would be needed in the day due to the transitions between the buildings, given what they're confronting right now, and that's for the subcommittee's consideration.
Any questions from the subcommittee? I think it's a great idea. My only question would be, as we put these positions in place, is there a way that we kind of sunset them so that we'd have to take affirmative action in the next budget to keep them? So it's not just an assumption?
Yes.
Okay.
We could, I think the plan was to do long-term subs for the end of the year. To
Okay.
meet that obligation, if that's acceptable.
I think that's perfectly acceptable. That would be great. All right. If there are no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve by Ms. Del Rossi, seconded by Mr. Lay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Excellent. Attendance monitor.
There's a need, I guess, in regards, as put forward by the high school, in regards to students who may be leaving campus, and of course there are, during the school day, and of course there are issues in regards to the unionized positions being able to leave the 4 corners of the campus to check on the students who may be on, for example, Merrimack Street, or in some of the buildings or some of the historic places where students may go during the day. It might not just be limited to that area. I want to be fair about that. The attendance monitors do have the ability to travel or to visit these various places. So the thought is to propose this to the committee so they can entertain that on how to best meet the needs of the high school.
Is there a cost differential between the attendance monitor and the security guards?
It's very close. I believe the attendance monitor is around 36,000 to 38,000. The security guards are right in the same range.
In the range? Okay. I don't know if there are any questions.
No question.
I would motion by Ms. Delay to approve the new attendance monitor position. I would put in place the same kind of age out at the end, so that we can reconsider it at budget time. Seconded by Ms. Del Rossi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes for recommendation to the full committee.
And the last one, Ms. Phillips, could you address that? The lead bilingual family liaison.
Sure. So this is a position that was recently vacated, and in looking at the bilingual liaisons that are across the district, both in schools and in central office, there is no education requirement for those positions, yet these staff come with managerial experience in other industries, as well as 4, 5, 6 years experience in our district, and don't have the opportunity to at least compete for the position. And so I am recommending that the bachelor's degree requirement be removed from the position to allow for, again, an industry where people can come with extensive experience, even in our own system, and not be able to have an opportunity for any career mobility.
So can I ask on the salary, the two documents don't match? The school spring versus the, I guess, the Lowell Public Schools document. One has a range of 55 to 60, I think. No. Yeah, 55 to 60 is the one on School Spring, and then the one that was given to us tonight is 55 to 70.
So I can't answer that, the transition between the two, but I can imagine that the 55 is for that accounting for the degree. So if someone did come in with a master's degree with, a certain level of experience, they should be able to be compensated for that. Whereas if someone comes in with, management experience outside of the district plus work within the district, they might come in at the lower end.
But they're different, right?
I'm sorry, Ms. Doherty.
Just that, what range is it?
That's my
What's the
question.
correct range? Is it 55 to 70? And that was with a bachelor's degree required? So if we're saying, I would still prefer that we say bachelor's degree preferred, may consider candidates
experience or-
with 5, to not make it or, definite or. We still would like someone with a degree, especially for a leadership role. Although I can see someone who's been in a management role, that, but the wording should be preferred bachelor's degree, may consider in lieu, with lieu of experience. I'm not saying it right, but you know what I mean. Yeah. My question really speaks back to what Ms. Martin said. There's two different ranges. So what is the real range? And if we are considering lowering it, that you don't need a bachelor's degree, maybe we want to lower the incoming. If you come in without a bachelor's degree, but you've got some significant experience, maybe you come in at 50, not 55 as a base. That would be my other comment.
Yeah.
So the current liaisons are at about 50. So this would be the team lead.
So, at this point, I think having a 55 to 60 makes sense. It's the increase up to 70 that I think that's too broad of a range. So I don't know. That's why I'm just trying to figure out which one is which. That I would be comfortable with 55 to 60, not 55 to 70 is the short answer.
Yeah. So I'm open. I'm open to it. I would say that many of the positions I'm seeing are like entry level or licensed, and there's not a lot of in between. And so I think that creates challenges for, it creates challenges, but, because there are other positions that, this is a 12-month position compared to like the school-based positions.
Right.
And
I do think, from my perspective, it's a big, particularly for an educational institution, it's a big step to remove a bachelor's. You know what I mean? And I support it. I think it's specifically, around positions like this where I think it's really important that we honor life experience and that is easily translatable. But I think that in doing that, you do kind of, it belongs in a different range because of that. And, and if someone comes in with a PhD, this really probably isn't the right job for them. They should be looking at something else.
what about like 55 to 65?
Like a compromise.
Yeah, it's a compromise. That'd be fine. I could live with that. Okay. Are there any other questions, concerns around this one? No? Yes, Ms. Doherty.
And I know we had, I think it's in the motion I had last meeting, about the Family Resource Center, going back to the early hours and posting. We increased our bilingual family liaisons because we recognize, at least for me, I recognize what a valuable role they have in reaching out to our families. But I do want them tied to the Family Resource Center in some publicized way so families know, Wednesdays I can speak to someone in Portuguese and get the support I need. I don't see anything in the description that talks about that relationship. Like, the lead person is the main supervisor for these bilingual. What does the Family Resource Center, I think that title is coordinator. What is that role in terms of these people that some part of their week has to be at the family? That was the reason we supported the funding to increase those positions, is that they'd be helping our parents through the center. I don't know if there's any thoughts on that.
So these positions provide more school-based services. We did approve positions for the Family Resource Center to be placed fully 100% in the center. So the bilingual liaison team, during the high season would always support in the Family Resource Center. But this is the team that, so for example, anytime we have a crisis management at the school, they've all been trained and since received certificates in interpretation. There's been a lot of training of this team. They're handling a lot of support to schools. So this is different from the positions that are just, their primary role is registration.
Okay, but my understanding with those positions that the primary role was registration, they would not report, because I specifically asked for that when we were talking about those positions. They would not report to the Family Resource Center coordinator. They would report to the lead. Because my understanding was Dr. Boyd's explanation was we were trying to build this team of bilingual parent liaisons that would be led by the lead, who at the time we knew he was leaving. I think he's went on to grad school or something. So they are connected to this role. And that's separate from that's contradictory to what you just said.
So I agree with what you're saying. When we discussed that position, they were reporting to me, which is how the liaison positions came in. So before the lead position was created, they reported to the chief equity officer. And my understanding of the discussion was that it switched to reporting to the coordinator of the Family Resource Center in lieu of reporting to me, even though I believe it makes complete sense that it should report to the liaison lead. I do believe that was the conversation we had, was that it got shifted to reporting to the Family Resource Center coordinator.
So we're saying that there's a group of these bilingual family liaisons who are more school-based, and they report to the lead, but that there are others who are permanently in the Family Resource Center, and they're reporting to the Family Resource Center coordinator.
Right, and that was not the initial recommendation, but the job description still said it reported to me, because the original job description, when I came in 2019, said to the chief equity officer, and then there was discussion saying, I think it should report to the FRC if they're going to be in the FRC, and then the decision was made to make that adjustment. So we can check the minutes.
Yeah.
I'm happy
We did
to.
If you made, I mean, I asked for that adjustment, and both you and Dr. Boyd explained why you didn't want it, and I backed down from that. So and that was why I was looking for the hours to be posted, because at the meeting, I said, okay, if they're going to report to you or the lead, which I think at the time, I'm talking about this summer.
Yeah.
We were talking about the lead.
Right. Lead, yeah.
That we knew was leaving. I said, then I want hours posted on the website at the Family Resource, so families know when there's going to be an interpreter. If they're pulled out when it's not busy, and I get that, to go to schools, that's fine. But I wanted a commitment of when the Family Resource Center could rely on them for our families. So my understanding was we didn't change that they still would report to the lead. So I think we need to be clear on those Family Resource Center roles. Who do they report to? Who is their supervisor? And I could see the value in having them be part of this bilingual family team with a lead over them, and ultimately they are reporting to you. That's why I backed off from it. But I'm just confused today because it sounds like we have a different understanding of the meeting. I just want clarification on that, and it doesn't impede moving forward with this position. And I think that the adjustment, having the range to 65, I do want the language to be very clear that we prefer a bachelor's. We will, I mean, I've seen job descriptions all the time that say that. They might consider, work experience in lieu of that, but to just still have that, the bachelor's degree. Sorry, I didn't mean to cause all this confusion.
No,
but
that's okay.
It's not clear, and I think that even between the two of us, we have different recollections of what happened at that meeting. But I know I backed off from requesting that, with the caveat that we're going to know when they're going to be at the Family Resource Center, that we can count on it as families in the community, when they can get someone in Portuguese and whatever the,
I mean, and it would seem like the lead would be able to coordinate that the lead would have responsibility for staffing that desk, with a variety of opportunities and whatnot. I think that makes sense, too. I could see that.
Okay.
So for our purposes tonight, would entertain a motion to move forward with the bilingual family liaison lead at the salary range of 55 to 65, and to post that to be filled by Ms. Del Rossi, seconded by Mr. Lay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Can we get clarification for Wednesday? Because
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Okay. To get a report on the actual reporting structure for all bilingual family liaisons, both in the Family Resource Center and school-based. I think the question may be longer than the answer, but do your best with that. Okay, I believe we have made it through our agenda, just in time for Mr. Skinner to finally get here.
Principal. It's my favorite motion.
In favor.